This month it seems as though Valve have become updating addicts. This new update elegantly fixes a problem with the ping feature. People were using it to mark where enemies were, then when stood behind cover were lining their shots up with the icon and wallbanging them. Valve has chosen to address this issue by making the ping notification increasingly transparent as you look closer and closer to it, fading completely once staring directly at it, which should at least make it harder to exploit, though I can still think of ways. Mirage's retake clip brushes have been fixed. Previously you could bypass a buy zone block into apartments by jumping around the side and in through the window. Not anymore. Frostbite sees its first post-launch round of changes, improving frame rates, loot spawns, and generally shifting stuff around to make it better. This building has had its central bar swapped out for a more traditional row, which I suppose opens up the room a bit for those looking just to pass through, as well as giving campers a nicer spot to hide behind. The electrical building's surrounding fence is now clipped to allow for easier jumps onto the roof. These ladders have been made easier to grab onto, though I could see no visual changes and they were still fiddly to grab hold of when approaching from beneath. The price of this security gate was hovering above the ground in thin air. In this update it's been placed back from whence it came. And these village buildings have had their interiors almost completely transformed. Some walls have been demolished, other places renovated. Anything you thought you knew about these buildings, you no longer will. And last we get onto Ancient, a map that I admit I've somewhat overlooked simply because it came as part of something a lot bigger. Being the latest Valve-made Diffuse map, had we received this a few months ago on its own, I'd have been able to give it the love and attention that it deserves, because it really is something special. It's the spiritual successor to Aztec, paying homage to the original by having the same watery tunnels and wooden bridges. And it's nice to see such a natural looking map, with beautiful high resolution textures and props everywhere. You might wish we had received a high-resolution Aztec instead, but in a way they've done that since they've provided all of the materials required should somebody in the community wish to do that. They've even provided a map file for Ancient for people to easily copy-paste its assets into their own creations. With this latest update, this map has had a few nice changes too. They've made it easier to read which ledges can be stepped on, and which you'll slide off, because let's face it, the edges of this staircase didn't look like places you could traverse previously. Candles have been added around the place to light up the darkest corners. This red room has been totally transformed by them into something that wouldn't look out of place in a modern Tomb Raider game. You'll also notice a few of the walls have had their textures adjusted to improve character model readability in those areas. This scaffolding hasn't changed to look at, but you can now wallbang through it, even with something as weak as a pistol. Should really help when retaking or defending this bomb site. I wonder if these changes are from information they collected from retake mode, which feels like a clever way of playtesting bomb sites, doesn't it? The ugly man-made metal supports have been removed from these doorways leading to B. These crates have been moved closer together to close up a pixel gap. And those of you on low settings will be happy to know that even more foliage has been removed at lower quality presets. I will say there's still a lot of stuff around, but it's a shame to lose it because this map's so pretty. Some invisible parts have been visibilized, mossy walls will no longer sound like they're made of grass when shot, and there's general optimizations and federal clipping changes. I saw new clipping brushes applied to crates and along the ruins in places. And distant sound effects have been quietened, and it looks like there have been a few general improvements to the audio quality in this update. So thank you Valve for giving this game some more love, and for giving me more content to cover on the night that Cyberpunk is released.